Nancy and I were recently visiting my siblings in western Pennsylvania. One day we took off through a snowy wonderland to go see the 2018 Carnegie International Art Show in Pittsburgh. We passed certain landmarks of my childhood. There was Bellevue's iconic Live Worship Shop sign. And of course, we drove by the place that I always feared I'd end up. The old North Side prison, now no longer used, thank God. The Carnegie Museum complex is out near the campus of the University of Pittsburgh. We went inside, paid our money, and proceeded to wander. I am a lover of art and artists, but I am not a critic. And I did not see, or perhaps I should say experience, everything in the show. But I hope this gives you some idea of what the 57th Carnegie International is all about. By the way, please don't trust that I am pronouncing any of the artists' names correctly. Contemporary art can be a bit challenging, and I wasn't always clear about exactly what I was looking at. But the Carnegie does give out little brochures with the names of the artists, along with pithy, sometimes cryptic, descriptions of their projects. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you might even run into a museum staff member as she walks by.
This is an artwork that's a collective with 3 artists who are bringing up the avant-garde, a lot of it which was in Pittsburgh between art and music.
Okay, so this whole room is considered one installation?
Yes, it's considered an artwork of itself.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I found online that Josiah McElhenney is a MacArthur Genius Grant winner, best known for his glass sculptures and assemblages. He did sound engineering when he was young, which explains his interest in how art and music intersect. Here are some tape reels decorated by jazz master Sun Ra, which Josiah's graphic work seems to riff upon. Josiah's work is beautiful, and he and his collaborators, who I think are Chicago art dealers, have curated a mini show of like-minded musicians and artists from the past and present. Thaddeus Mosley is a 92-year-old Pittsburgh native who has been sculpting since the 1950s. He served in World War II, studied journalism at the University of Pittsburgh, worked for a while as a reporter, and then got a job with the Postal Service, retiring in 1992. He is inspired by jazz and tries to get an improvisational quality into his monumental works of chiseled wood. Another MacArthur Genius Award recipient, Kerry James Marshall, was born in Alabama in 1955. Raised in South Central LA, he now lives in Chicago. His theme is African American life. The Carnegie is exhibiting Rhythm Master, a comic strip that he developed at the turn of the millennium. Back then, it had been serialized in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Are you the artist?
No, that's John and Lenka. We're hired painters.
Oh.
Yes.
So you do the actual labor?
The painters do, yes.
Okay.
Actually, they come in too, occasionally, in special shifts.
Okay. Fruit and Other Things. From 1896 to 1931, the Carnegie International was curated from an international open call. The museum kept meticulous records, not only of all the works accepted, but of those rejected as well. Over the course of the 57th Carnegie International, each of the 10,632 rejected artwork titles are being individually hand-painted, exhibited, and then given away in alphabetical order. Visitors are invited to take a painting home. Beverly Sams works in a variety of mediums, including sculpture, painting, and filmmaking. She is perhaps best known for her large dresses. In 2002, she received a bunch of Penthouse and Hustler magazines from a neighbor and started her Feminist Responsibility Project. As you can see, she is mostly painted over the private parts of the models. But every once in a while, a titillating bit or two might just pop out. I really like the furniture-like sculptures and wall hangings of Jessie Reeves. Doing a bit of research, I found out that she worked as an upholsterer after graduating from the Rhode Island School of Design, which incidentally seems, along with Yale, to be a major feeder school for this exhibition.
I want you to gently sit on the sculpture. That's the only thing we're allowed to touch in here.
Is it comfortable?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Can you take naps on it?
No.
Oh,
No, we don't want you to get too comfortable.
okay.
I know little kids want to climb on it and we have to tell them no.
Anyway, I am captivated by her creative use of materials and rich 3D compositions. Pakistani-born Huma Baba creates large expressionistic figures that are somewhat frightening, but with a very imposing presence. Dayanita Singh says in an online interview, "Photography is my raw material, and I like to make mobile museums and books that become objects." She often works in black and white as a reaction to the vibrant colors that are dominant in Indian culture. But here she exhibits some color photographs, a series of images of folded cloth. We can also view some of her museum-like structures. Art Labor is a group of artists from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Their installation is a traditional coffee bar, complete with hammocks and coffee, which I think gets served at certain times, though sadly I missed getting mine. They also exhibit some sculptures. On the ceiling hang some beautiful kites, made by the father of one of the artists. These were painted by 82-year-old video artist and retired MIT professor Joan Jonas. Rachel Rose is a video artist who is 50 years younger than Joan Jonas. I read that she spends up to a year working on each of her productions and uses both her own and found footage. She seems to have a particular interest in the relationship of life and death. The film she's exhibiting is an animation, and I found out that she has collected thousands of images from children's books from the 18th and 19th centuries, I assume for inspiration. Abel Rodriguez is a member of an indigenous community from the rainforest in Colombia. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of the plants and animals of his jungle homeland, from which he was forced to flee because of narco and political violence. He did all these beautiful images from memory. Though he doesn't consider himself an artist, in my book, he is a standout of the Carnegie International. Whereas Rodriguez is immersed in the realities of the natural world, Alex DeCourt creates a highly artificial world based on his love of television. This Camden, New Jersey-born graduate of the Yale MFA program lives in Philadelphia. He created and starred in 57 videos. I saw part of the one in which Heinz ketchup is featured. Andrew Carnegie founded the Carnegie Institute in 1895, and the first international was the next year. In its early years, it was an exhibition of paintings. In this year's incarnation, painting is a rare commodity, but there are still some artists who cling to the old ways, even if they are rethinking that tradition. Ulrike Müller, born in Austria but currently residing in New York, is not only an artist but also a community organizer. A feminist and gay rights advocate, she exhibits two kinds of art: elegant geometrical paintings with vitreous enamel on steel. Also tapestries, which she abstracts from recognizable subject matter. Speaking of the two different media, she said, "Painting is a medium associated with art historical canons and certain notions of power. I'm interested in decentering those ideas, and one way to do that is through material. Sarah Crowner was born in Philadelphia but grew up in LA after her family moved there because of her father's job as a producer for the Mike Douglas Show. At one point, Sarah worked for Claes Oldenburg and his wife. For the International, she has covered a wall with a huge abstract painting made up of pieces that she stitched together. She also cut a hole in that wall. You can see the missing part in a gallery about 50 yards away. She also created a 64-foot wide by 8-foot tall ceramic piece, which covers another wall. Another person who also continues to daub oily pigment onto a rectangular surface is Pittsburgh-born Mel Bachner. His word paintings are considered to be very important in the development of conceptual art. His Jewish identity feeds his work. I love the traditional painterly techniques, the variety of thick and thin paint application, soft and hard edges, and massive scale. I also very much appreciate his sense of humor. Lynette Yiram Bokai is of Ghanaian heritage and lives in London. She paints enigmatic images of people of African descent that create a mood without telling a story. She once said, "People ask me, who are they? Where are they? What they should be asking is, what are they?" Lynette was awarded one of two $10,000 prizes given out by the Carnegie Museum. The other $10,000 prize was won by the group known as Post-Commodity, who made a monumental installation called "From Smoke and Tangled Waters, We Carried Fire Home." These artists are struggling to share the point of view of indigenous people facing a world of violence and repression. Art News wrote, alluding to the practice of Navajo sand painting, it's been conceived as a kind of graphic score that jazz musicians will be able to interpret from the gallery above throughout the run of the show. There were no jazz musicians when I was there, but even so, I loved it. Lucy Scayer made an installation of a massive wall of digital imagery based on the art of post-impressionist master Edward Vuillard. On the floor are a bunch of torso-like sculptures. Born in Scotland, she splits her time between Glasgow and London. Zoe Leonard exhibits a series of close-up images of the Rio Grande River. Born in 1961, she has been making photographs since she was 16. One might assume that these photos are expressing an environmental concern or maybe ideas about immigration. Zoe is an outspoken voice for the LGBTQ community and has worked in many different media over the years, including sculpture, performance art, and writing. Yuji Agamatsu was born in Japan in 1956, but has been living in New York since 1980. His installation of seemingly countless small sculptures took my breath away. Each one is composed with little bits of flotsam and jetsam that he picked up off the streets of New York and then encased in a cellophane wrapper. They are oddly beautiful, despite the unsavory quality of some of the elements. You get the idea that some of the more conceptually based artists of today are kind of tricky. I wandered into one large room, not listed in the brochure, but I suspected that it was an elaborate piece of performance art.
Can I ask you, what is this?
What is what?
This gathering? What is this?
ProVerify. We have a software program that can help nonprofits, large and small, with background checks, clearances, medical and drug screening.
Yeah, see, I think all of you guys are paid actors, and you're actually part of the Carnegie International, am I right?
No.
Yes.
No one
yes.
paid me yet.
Is this a giant art installation? Are you guys part of the Carnegie International?
No.
I think you are. You have to say that, right?
Oh, well, all right.
Are you guys all a big piece of performance art? You're part of the Carnegie International?
Exactly. You figured it out.
I thought so. It's one of the best pieces.
Whether or not that large group event actually was artistic expression, I was very grateful for the snack. Perhaps the art I like the most this year may not technically even be part of the International, but I am including it because it was listed in the brochure. On the museum's website, I read, Charles Teeny Harris, 1908 to 1998, photographed Pittsburgh's African American community from circa 1935 to circa 1975. His archive of nearly 80,000 images is one of the most detailed and intimate records of the Black urban experience known today. Stanley Crouch wrote, "This collection provides us with an epic sense of life, which is to say that a civilization and how it worked is laid out before us." No one knows if any of the artists in this 57th International will be remembered in 50 years, the way that some previous alumni have. Winslow Homer, Auguste Rodin, Edward Hopper, Willem de Kooning, and Pierre Bonnard are just some of the well-known artists who have been included in past shows. The art world is different now, more inclusive and diverse. Plus, art has come off the walls, sometimes even leaving the visual behind altogether. Curator Ingrid Schaffner wrote, "The aim of this international is to inspire museum joy. Simply put, the pleasure of museums comes from the commotion of being with art and other people actively engaged in the creative work of interpretation." As we made our way to the parking lot, then through the streets of Pittsburgh, and out of the city, we realized that we really had experienced museum joy. I had but one quibble about the show. I have no problem with Ulrike Muller's desire to decenter art historical canons and notions of power. But I do wish a few more representational artists had been invited. I have made films about many such artists who have much to teach us and do so through the old traditions. That aside, if you are in Pittsburgh before March 25th of next year, make sure you check out the 57th Carnegie International.